Hello. Give me just a second if you're watching this. Hello. So I do not have a solo channel. I just cannot get a hold of Tori, and he somehow changed the password to the Blazers Uprise YouTube. So having to make do with what I have right now. So hopefully enough people find the stream, and we can link it up to the Blazers Uprise account later. But I thought this was big enough news to go live as quickly as possible. So. Sorry it took so long. Big shout out to Krish for the thumbnail. I suck at making pictures and using Photoshop and all that stuff. So, yeah. Don't know if many people will find this, but we'll see. Maybe Tori will wake up in a few. I'll turn that light off. Maybe make it better. I've tried calling him several times. I don't think he's waking up anytime soon. What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, Chris is very skilled at the thumbnails. Yeah, we're on my channel right now. I didn't know what else to do. I have access to a highlights channel, but I think it's like private, so I don't know if people would have seen it or been able to access it. So just made an executive decision to sign up for this. Sorry if my dog's making... God. Do you have to play with your squeaker toy right now? All right. Yeah, people tried Snapchatting him, and yeah. Also, shout out to Reese for alerting me of the trade right at 9 o'clock. Got that text message saying we made the trade, so thank you to Reese. And thank you everyone for watching. I'm actually no kids here. No wife either. So just me and my dog. And yeah, my dog's obviously excited about Larry Nance, or to take a walk. Probably to take a walk, but what are you gonna do? All right, so thank you everyone for tuning in. The Blazers make a trade this morning. There's a lot of argument as to how big of a trade it is, but the Blazers have acquired Larry Nance Jr. from the Cleveland Cavaliers. they ship out Derrick Jones Jr. and a lottery-protected first-round pick to the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls also receive a second-round pick from the Cleveland Cavaliers. And then the Cleveland Cavaliers are inexplicably trading for Lauri Markkanen. And I understand the Blazers and the Bulls side of this. I do not get it from the Cavs at all. They have, they just drafted Mobley. They just locked up Jared Allen to a long-term contract. So I don't really understand what they're thinking with Markkanen. They had a glut of bigs already, so just kind of weird. I like Larry Nance a lot. I think this trade is a big win for the Blazers. I'm a little sad to not be able to see Derrick Jones in a better situation. I think it would have been for him this year, but other than that, it's just my dog is going crazy. I'm so sorry. Oh man. Makes it fun, right? Hey, Olive. Go outside. Maybe I'll tease her with a treat. Sorry if that's loud. Here you go. All right, so yeah, I'm a little disappointed that we don't get to see Derrick Jones. What he can do in a more free-flowing, pass-oriented offense. But I think Larry Nance is enough of an upgrade to make me think that this will have serious impacts on the Blazers season. For those that are kind of wondering why we would give up so much for Derrick Jones, like a lot of people or for Larry Nance, like a lot of people on Twitter are suggesting, Larry Nance is one of the elite defenders for his position. And for all those people that cry about wanting defense and needing defense and having too many offensive-oriented players, having too many guards on the roster, I don't get now why you're complaining about getting a big that is a good defender. His best position is the 4, power forward, so he'll likely come off the bench. But yeah, it's he's a good defender. Woj described him as an elite defender. I'm gonna throw your ball outside. Go get it. Go get it. There we go. Zach asked if I think he'll be happy coming off the bench. He's been coming off the bench most of his career, so I don't think it's going to be a situation where he's going to complain about coming off the bench if that's his role. In fact, so this is the other hidden thing about this trade is he's a decent passer for a big. And I think there's some hidden potential there for him to become a better passer in a better situation for him, a more free-flowing offense like I mentioned. And we don't really have a top playmaker on the bench, but now we add Nance next to Zeller. Both of those guys can pass, and so you have 2 good passers now from the big man position. You have a good passer in Nurk in your starting lineup, so I think you're going to see a lot more maybe inside out or high post action from the Blazers this year, because they're going to be they have pretty much all bigs that can pass the ball. So I'm really excited about that. When your team is balanced and everyone can pass or move the ball, you don't really have to worry about having those elite passers. So I think it's going to work out. I think this makes our bench go from possibly a question mark and maybe having some depth issues to now like one of the best benches in the league, in my opinion. So I'm excited about it. I think there was rumors that Nance's value was like two lottery level picks at the draft, or at the trade deadline last year. I don't think he's worth that much. I think they were overvaluing him a little bit. But to get him for basically a lottery protected first and to match salary with the Derrick Jones, here's the thing: people are saying, oh, like we should have only given up Derrick Jones. Well, he doesn't have that kind of value, and I mean, I wish he did, but after getting thrown under the bus last year, I just don't see him having that value. So we had to include a first. We lottery protected it through as far as we could, I think, through the 2028 season, and then it turns into a 2028 second if it doesn't convey. So we'd have to miss the playoffs for the next 7 drafts. So that's not happening. We should be a playoff team this year pretty easily. I think this solidifies that. We still have an open roster spot as well, so we can still sign some more depth or sign someone else to the roster. But yeah, someone else's dog. That's not my dog barking, but I'm going to close the door. So Ethan asks, will our starting lineup be Rocco at the 3 and Nance at the 4? I seriously doubt, after all the talk we heard about how our starting lineup had the 4th best net rating and all that other stuff, I just don't see them changing the starting lineup. So I think this trade was built to have Nance come off the bench and basically, along with Zeller, be our playmaker off the bench. And the other thing about Nance is I think he shot around 36% from 3 last year, so he's a good 3-point shooter for a big at least, and he can fit right in as a spot up shooter as well. Connor, yes, we do technically still have 2 spots, but knowing recent years, Olshey hasn't really filled both spots, so I think we're just gonna roll with the one more signing. And I think this is why we're waiting to sign someone, whether it be we're waiting on Millsap to make a decision, who still hasn't made a decision yet, or we're waiting on a trade like this to manifest itself. I think this is why we're waiting to use that last roster spot, not knowing if we needed a certain position or not. So now that we have our backup power forward locked up, I think it makes it easier to know that I'm pretty sure we're going to sign if we sign 2, it'll probably be a guard, a point guard type, and a 3rd center. But yeah, this is yeah, I agree, Tommy. At this point in their careers, Nance is better than Paul Millsap, so that's a good reason for not using our MLE on Millsap. But like I said, he hasn't decided yet, so who knows if he's even playing or what. But yeah, so our second lineup I'm assuming CJ will still run the second unit, so then you'll have Ant, you'll have Nas, you'll have Nance and Zeller. And that is, I mean, as long as that bench is healthy, I don't think you can get a much more solid bench. And that doesn't include Snell either, so Snell can fit right in if, let's say, there's an injury, or if, Nas is underperforming or not taking that jump that we need. And then we got McLemore for shooting if we need a shooter off the bench as well. There's lots of different ways we can go with that. Nance and Zeller playmaking might be enough to rest CJ at times as well and not have to play him too much with the bench if that's not going well. I don't know if they'll go that route or not, but I I think this was the right move. It's the right amount of value for giving up for him. And I just think this is a really solid move. And people are going to say that's all Olshey does is make solid moves. He doesn't make the big all-in move. But these are the type of moves that build a team to make your team so good that you can overcome a lot of that not having a second star or whatever people say. So I think a guy like Larry Nance, for just basically an expiring contract and a first-round pick, I don't see how you can make a much more solid trade than that to fill this team's needs. I mean, he's the perfect player. I mean, you could play him and Rocco together sometimes. So when I said Nance probably wouldn't be starting, I didn't mean that he couldn't play with Rocco, because I think they can. But yeah, I just I really like this fit. I really like the way this makes our rotation work out. Like I said, it's 9 deep, and that doesn't even include Snell. So yeah, I really think that this is a good trade for the Blazers. You know, if you're worried about Dame long term, I am of the opinion, for those of you who may not watch Blazers Uprise normally, I'm still not worried about Dame. I think that he's going to come into the season and be under a new coach for the first time in his NBA career. It's been a long time since college, and he's heard a different voice in that locker room. And I think it's going to revitalize him, and I think he's going to see that once players are held accountable the right way, which I believe Billups will do, once they're taught the right things, game plans for certain games and defensive assignments and help defensive assignments. Some of the stuff that Norm was talking about during the season when he came here was a little frustrating that they didn't have those kind of things under Stotts. I think once Dame realizes that it can work out here, and this team, I believe, is good enough to have success even in the West with everything getting better. He can say whatever he wants right now. I just think once he gets into the season and starts playing under a new coach and with the guys again and all that kind of stuff, he's going to be he's going to completely remember why he was loyal and why he wanted to stay in Portland and why he wants to win a championship in Portland. And I don't think in the end he will run from the grind. And Rick Bucher had a great statement yesterday, kind of echoes a lot of the things I've been saying for the last few months. But like he basically said that Dame is risking a lot if he requests a trade. And it's not even guaranteed to win a championship. Like, say he goes to Philly. I mean, that team isn't guaranteed to beat Brooklyn. It's not guaranteed to beat the Bucks. It's not guaranteed to beat the Lakers in the finals if those teams are healthy. So if he requests a trade, he ruins the whole loyalty status he has. And then he also doesn't necessarily win a ring. And he's not necessarily the man of the franchise or the man in a city. And so that may sound stupid, but Dame, that's his reputation right now. And so he's the type of guy who is of extreme character. I mean, this guy has done nothing but great things for the city of Portland and for the NBA, and he's done it in a small market, and there's no reason why he can't continue to do that here. And yeah, he wants to win, but with how much a team would have to give up to get him, and the fact that he doesn't have a veto right or a no trade clause or anything, so he can't necessarily pick what team he gets traded to, I just don't think there's that many scenarios where he could get traded, look like it was the right move, and that he would for sure win. And he mentioned this everyone's talking about him on Instagram Live saying I'm in Portland for now, and I think that is, it completely goes against what he did, an interview that came out that same day with Complex Sports, and he said in that he's got to realize that the grass isn't always greener, and that's the type of saying that he's always said, is that, and that matches what I was just saying about the other thing. And I just think that when it comes down to it, Dame is going to want to be here still. He's going to realize that he likes it here. I think he just got really frustrated with how bad things ended last season. It kind of reminds me of the last year LaMarcus Aldridge was here, because Aldridge, he said all the things, I'm staying, I want to be the best Blazer, I want to be the top scorer in Blazer history, all that stuff. He was saying that all year. And then the Wes Matthews injury happens, and the team just implodes, and then Aldridge disappears in the playoffs and takes his own flight home and all this stuff. So that's kind of like what would have happened if Dame was a free agent this summer. So that's the beauty of locking him up for long term. I mean, we don't have to trade him, first of all. I know if he requests a trade, he would want out, but if he was a free agent, he might be gone right now. That's the problem. I think he might have chose this summer to move elsewhere. But the fact that he's still under contract, he's going to come back. And if Aldridge would have came back that next year, I think it would have been totally fine. Like, they would have realized that it was just a fluke of a year, and that the coaching was bad, and that they shouldn't have lost to the Nuggets anyway. And if they would have beat the Nuggets, and the second round matchup might have been for the West, for who came out of the West. And I mean, I'm not saying they would have beat the Suns. They probably would have lost. But if you're competitive against the Suns and then they go to the finals or whatever, I think that just, the whole narrative changes. So the fact that we lose the opening round because of terrible coaching and just really bad performances, like a 1 for 19 in overtimes of Game 6 or Game 5, those kind of things aren't going to happen all the time. Like, you're not going to get 1 for 19 performances from all your other players around you there very often. So yes, if we lose in the first round next year, it could be bad, but I don't know. I just don't see us being anything but competitive. So I feel like in those games against the Nuggets, I just don't think we lose this year to a team that we should beat, if that makes sense. But yeah. Olive. So sorry, everyone. Yeah, I don't think DeAndre Jordan's going to get bought out. Could be wrong on that, but I think he still has 2 years left on his deal. So I'm always surprised with players with multiple years left on their deal if they get bought out. But yeah, back to the trade. This trade, a player like Larry Nance is a good enough role player. I know it's not a star, but here, come here. Okay, go get the ball. Go get the ball. Sorry. All right. Yeah, normally I'd just mute myself and let Tori take over, but don't have Tori here with me. And for those that missed the beginning of the stream, so can't get a hold of Tori. He's obviously sleeping, and the password's been changed since the last time I went solo. So I have no way to get on the Blazers Uprise YouTube. So I just decided to make it on my own account and hope that people find it. But whatever. Glad that you guys tuned in. Hal Cooper's asking if I saw what CJ said. I saw the interview. What part in particular are you referring to? Yeah, Tori, I'm pretty sure he went to bed really late last night. He probably went to bed right before the trade broke, actually. So, yeah. And, yeah, I appreciate everyone who's here. A lot of, almost all the regulars are here, so we're good. Taylor Packer says that a lot of Cleveland fans are mad, and that's also a good sign. Yeah, so for those that don't know, Tori and I, we're taking a week off from Blazers Uprise, from doing streams. We normally stream on Monday and Thursdays. Check out our channel, Blazers Uprise and Blazers Uprise Live, if you are new and just seeing this for the first time. But yeah, I mentioned right before we went off air that I actually hope we had a stream this week, because that would mean we made a trade or a big move or something. So I'm glad that it actually happened. And if we weren't on taking a week off, we would have had a stream last night, and we would have just been talking about, you know, are we really not going to make a move and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. This also goes back to, so we lost Zach Collins this offseason to the Spurs. Basically got nothing out of the 2017 draft. And now here's another team that had a pick ahead of us in that draft that they turned him into basically a first round and a second round pick. So didn't get much for Markkanen. So you can say that was a bad pick at this point as well. So yeah, if the Bulls didn't want to keep Markkanen, I think this is a good move for them just to get a first round pick, but you have to go back. Different GM, I guess, so you can't really blame the current GM for that if you're a Chicago fan. But yeah, to have, I think Markkanen was the 7th pick in that draft. So to do that, to use the 7th pick in that draft with that kind of talent still on the board and not re-sign him after his rookie contract is up, I think is a failure. Just like Dennis Smith Jr. is still out there as a free agent. He was picked a couple picks after that. You have, let's see. Frank Ntilikina is still out on his out as a free agent right now, unsigned. Was also picked, I think, 8th in that draft, 7, 8, 9. So Collins left his team. That middle part of that lottery ended up not being very good after their rookie seasons like that was going to be a huge stretch. Malik Monk has to sign for the minimum. The Lakers, he was the 11th pick in that draft. You got Luke Kennard at 12, who got traded to the Clippers last year, but he did not have a great season for them, and I think is massively overpaid because they gave him I want to say like $16 million a year extension or something like that. So yeah, but that was also like Goax05 says that was also the Fultz draft. Josh Jackson was in that draft at number 4 for the Suns. So that there's a lot of teams. You can give Olshey crap all you want, but it's hard when the Collins thing, I still believe is mostly injury based. If he's healthy, I still think he would have been just as good of a pick as several of those other players. But yeah, that draft, as hyped as it was, I don't think turned out as good. The only problem is you have guys like Bam and Mitchell, John Collins that went after all those guys I talked about. So that's always going to be the narrative. OG and a new boy. We got Jared Allen. Those guys are really good players. So that's. I still think we're gonna regret giving up on Collins. Like I said, if he's healthy, I still think he provides a lot of good things. But Nance is kind of a similar type player, just a little smaller. So I see the mindset there. So hopefully Nance is healthy. Nance has been in some weird situations. He was on the Lakers when they were crappy. He was on the Cavs when they were crappy. Yeah, so yeah. Yeah, when, as Tommy says, when a team like San Antonio signs Zach pretty early in free agency, you can see how much teams and good organizations value him. But the Spurs have also made some questionable moves, so I don't know if I can 100% say that. But yeah, the Cavs they had so many bigs, and so like I said, it doesn't make sense to trade Nance for another big in this situation, in my opinion. But I love it for the Blazers. I mean, people want to win now and have the team set up for now. And Olshey once again put the Blazers in a position where if Dame does request out, that pick might turn into a second-round pick. Or if we make the playoffs, it conveys, and then we have all our future first-round picks again after this next draft. And so I absolutely think Larry Nance and his impact this year will be more than a rookie in next year's draft. And those of you that know me know that I'm of the opinion I overvalue draft picks, even late first-round picks. I still think there's good uses for them, even on a contending team. I still think it's important to develop young players. I think some of the missteps from contending teams are to not value first-round picks and not value having guys on the end of your bench that could pop or develop. And then when something happens to your star, you have like no one who can step up or do anything. So I am usually for that, but between Ant, Nas, and Greg Brown, I feel pretty confident in one of those three potentially popping and taking the next step. So we have three guys there, don't need a lot of extra development. And if Dame does request out, like I said, if we don't make the playoffs, which we probably wouldn't if Dame requested out, unless we got some crazy package back for him that win now, which wouldn't make sense. We should go full rebuild in that situation. But yeah, I think this is a situation where it was the right thing to do to get the right player who matches it. Much like Rocco last year, I think people are just a little stung by players like Rocco and Derrick Jones not having an impact last year. And they listen to the coach speak about how those players aren't impacting it. They look at our defense. We bring in two really good defenders, and our defense is still second worst in the NBA. So people are wondering, like, why make a trade for a defensive player? It doesn't matter. But I think that was all coaching. I think they were all used like horribly. I believe Rocco, you'll see that this year. Like I said earlier, I think we would have seen that with Derrick Jones having much more impact on defense this year. That has now passed. But Larry Nance is about as good of a fit defensively for our needs when you have a Dame and CJ backcourt, when you have a smaller small forward in Norm. I just really like Nance's fit, and we didn't have to give up a ton for him. And for those saying that, like Carlos says, Bulls won the trade, that's fine if you want to think that way. Getting a first-round pick and some wing depth is fine. But Larry Nance, no question, is the best player in this trade. So the Portland got him, and I never will complain if we are the team that gets the best player in the trade. Ben asked, what time is it over here? It's I'm in Portland. It's 10:43 in the morning. DJ Vega says, Nurk was upset DJ got traded. He was probably working really hard this offseason. But see, this is the problem. You have to trade players to get players. So Derrick Jones was by far our most tradable asset in terms of matching salary. But yeah, so we have to give up something. We can't just take on $10 million in salary. That's the other thing I haven't mentioned. So Larry Nance has a great contract. So he's still under contract for 2 more years, $10.7 million this year, and then $9.67 million next year. So that's extreme value. Much like Rocco, that's the kind of guy who, if you decided to move him, next year, or if Dame maps out, you could get value back in a trade for him, pretty much the same value, and recoup your first round pick. So, or at the trade deadline, if things aren't going well or he's unhappy with his role or something, you could combine him with someone else and, like, say a Rocco and Larry Nance, and match someone who's making like 20 to 25 million. I'm not saying it will come to that, but that's how you eventually get star players, is you have to have the contracts to match. So I think we upgraded our value, because adding Nance to a trade is better than adding Derrick Jones to a trade. Yeah, Carlos is worried about his injury proneness, which is fine. I mean, being a Blazer fan, you always have to worry about injury situations and stuff like that. But most of his injuries, unless I'm mistaken, have all been kind of just like super concerning or career threatening or athletic, like mobility hampering injuries. I think most of them have been just like nagging injuries and stuff like that. So a lot of that time, there's a lot of situations where players just go to a new team and get with a different trainer and maybe go about their day in a different way. They train a different way. They prepare for games in a different way. And we'll see. But, I mean, it's possible he could miss a bunch of games. Same with Zeller. Same with Nurk. I mean, we got a ton of guys who are like that. But adding a piece like this gives you the depth to possibly overcome that. And let's say he does miss some games. Well, you can move Nas to the 4, and then he plays Snell at the 3. And I just think that opens up a lot of lineup possibilities. And I think so we'll cross that bridge when it comes. It's hard to plan for injuries when you factor in all these teams and the moves they make. You pretty much have to look at it from a perspective of that the Blazers got better on paper. If injuries happen, there's nothing we can do about that. So it's hard to like predict that or plan for that. Josiah says he's going to miss Derrick Jones. Yeah. This guy who came in and, like I said, Stotts completely threw him under the bus. didn't like the way that was handled. Didn't like the whole situation. Those that know me know I was disgusted by the coaching last year. I feel like we just did a horrible job of having the team prepared to win games and to be in the best position to win games. And it was overcome because we can score a lot and we have the talent to create offense out of nothing and hit tough shots. But I think we're going to see a vastly different team in the way they're prepared for games, the way their help defense is not falling asleep constantly, the way just they defend pick and rolls, and I don't think we're going to be last in assists anymore. It's just yeah. I'm not worried about Nurk being sad because he's the type that wanted to run it back, because much like Olshey, Nurk hated Stotts. I mean, it's 100% obvious. I mean, he's basically said it without coming out and saying, I can't stand Stotts. He's gotten digs in every step of the way this summer. So this is a situation where Nurk wanted to prove to people that it was about the coaching and not the roster. So I think that he's just sad that the more the roster changes, the less, or not necessarily the less, but the people will have that excuse. Well, Stotts didn't have Larry Nance JR last year. He had Derrick Jones, and so while that is an upgrade for us, it's still, I think Nurk just wanted the least amount of those as possible. And also, when you have a rim runner, finisher, high flyer like Derrick Jones, and a passer like Nurk, especially someone who passes a lot out of the high post, he has probably been preparing to make passes to Derrick Jones, and they were probably talking about him cutting more and things like that. So I think it's never easy to trade someone that you went to battle with every night for a full season. And I wouldn't worry about it too much. I mean, Dame was mad when we traded Plumlee for Nurkic to begin with, and now they're like great friends. So it's just part of the business, I guess. But once they get Nance on the court, and this is another thing, Nance is a great fit with Nurkic. And Billups mentioned in one of his first interviews that he wanted Nurk to be more of a scorer. And to do that, a lot of the good big men scorers have a guy next to them who can pass out of the high post. So you can seal your guy in the middle. You can pass to a big man around the free throw line, and Nurk can seal his man inside and then just dump pass it to him, and then Nurk can just turn around and flip it up or drop step for easy baskets. And I think between Nurk and Nance and now Zeller, we have good passers that can all play that position. Hello, I'm Adam. And just once again, for people who are questioning or wondering what's going on, I didn't start my own channel. I'm not leaving Blazers Uprise or anything like that. I just didn't have any way to get in there, and I can't get a hold of Tori, so I just made a decision to hop on the only way I could and tweet it out from all the Blazers Uprise accounts. So yeah. Reese is asking what we'll do with our last roster spot. Yeah, I'm torn between a a third like point guard type and a third big. I actually think we need both. But if they only sign one, I'd probably say I think we just need another backup big just to be safe. Bonus points if it's a 4-5. So like a Giles Scal type, I think would be fine. Doesn't have to be one of those two players, but someone who can play both positions. I would be fine with an Avery Bradley type. I think that would help us out in situations where we need someone who can just get up and pressure a ball handler. But there's really no minutes right now for either of those guys. Whereas I definitely see a situation where we could use some minutes at the backup 4 or 5 if, like we talked about, the injury situation happens. I know Reese and some other people like Eli mentioned Hartenstein. I think he'd be a great third center. He's not really quick enough to play power forward, but he kind of fits in with what I was talking about, those passing skills from the high post. So if you're just all in on running your offense that way, I think that would be a good pickup as well. But I think Giles could be that guy as well. I don't think he was used properly like most players last year. So I think it'll be fine. So Carlos, you think Paul Millsap would have been perfect, but Larry Nance isn't? What's up, Carson? How you doing? Yeah, so Giles isn't on the team. He signed a 1-year deal. He is actually still a free agent. And then also Rondé Hollis Jefferson, for people asking, is also still a free agent. We did not retain either of those as of yet, and they have not signed with another team as of right now. So, yeah. Hal Cooper says if we ever bring back cancer again, I'm leaving my Blazers fandom. That's funny. Man, yeah. Reese mentions Jared Vanderbilt. He's still, as of this moment, a restricted free agent. I don't know what Minnesota is waiting for. But, yeah, if we could steal Vanderbilt as our backup or third string center, that would be a steal. But like you just mentioned with Hartenstein, I don't know why Vanderbilt would want to come here for less money than he probably deserves, and then and then not even get necessarily a first or second unit role. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense for Vanderbilt. I think there's some other situations where he could probably get playing time sooner rather than later. Vanderbilt was practicing with Trendon Watford. That's funny. There's been a lot of those runs I've seen where there's been a lot of players like that playing with each other. Makes you think. This is, I mean, unless there's some sort of crazy CJ trade, which at this point I really doubt is on the table. I think that it's just going to be a situation where this is pretty much our team. We'll probably sign one more person. I think we'll keep that roster spot open for the buyout market later in the season. And I think there could potentially be a lot of players on that buyout market. So I think the Blazers will just keep a roster spot open. The other thing is to, with keeping the 15th spot open, you can wait for injuries. And I'm kind of surprised this didn't happen the last couple years. But the Blazers have had injuries and had an open roster spot, and I thought that they were hoping, or that they were keeping that spot open just to sign someone whenever that occurred, whenever an injury happened, for some depth. I guess they signed Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, but I think they still had an open roster spot after that, because after the Norm Powell trade, they had 2 open roster spots, so they had to sign someone in that situation. Just like right now, we still have to sign one more player to the roster, so we'll see what happens, but I guess there's still a possibility of a CJ trade. There's been no movement on anyone in the league, pretty much outside of the Westbrook trade, which obviously we did not want to be a part of. But in terms of players that were on teams already and being traded, there's still nothing happened on that front. So, yeah. Yeah, John Doe mentions that Olshey does like to keep the roster spot open for 2-for-1 trades. But at this point, I don't know. We don't really have, unless it's for a better player, which would be the opposite. It would be multiple players going out, most likely, for a star coming in. I don't really see a 2-for-1 trade that's really, I mean, I guess you could eventually trade CJ for pieces, but I don't think that makes a ton of sense in terms of what I think they would do with CJ. I don't think they'd ever trade him for lesser parts, even if those parts would be a better fit. I just don't see them trading CJ for anyone but someone better than him. Brad Johnson asks, is there any way CJ or Powell could be the first off the bench, go for the 6th man of the year? I don't think either of them will. I don't think you can ask CJ to come off the bench, and I don't think that makes sense either, because he plays with the bench unit anyway. He comes out and comes back in with the second unit. So what does it really matter if he's starting or coming off the bench? So I just think that's like kind of an insult to make him do that, and I don't think it really matters in terms of team success if he comes off the bench. And then with Norm, everything he said, he was signed thinking he was a starter. So I think you can do things like, just because you have a starting lineup doesn't mean you always have to play small, and that's what people don't realize. Like, you don't have to always play those 3 together just because they're starting. So you just bring out CJ after a few minutes and have him come back with the bench, and then you run a bigger lineup after a few minutes. It's not that hard. People just they overblow it way too much. And also the size, the height, all these people tweeting about the heights of players. Height does not matter. It's standing reach and wingspan. Those are way more important than height. And Norm Powell is not that undersized at the 3. Have a good one, Chris. Thanks again for the thumbnail. I really appreciated it, man. But Norm isn't really undersized when you look at other metrics other than height. So I just think it's way overblown. I think our starting lineup is really good. I've always been of the opinion that our roster is better than most people think it is, and I think it's been held back by coaching. And I'm hoping Billups has said basically everything I've been saying for years in terms of what needs to improve and how to improve it and all that kind of stuff. I'm still cautious about going all in on Billups before actually seeing him implement the things he said, because sometimes when you get a coach, they don't always they can say all the right things, but getting players to buy in or implementing those in a way that makes it to the level that you expect it to be, sometimes, especially good players that can't necessarily teach having their mindset in a game or in a clutch situation. Those kind of players sometimes struggle with being coaches, even though they know the right things to do. So I'm hoping that Billups can find a way to implement all these things he's saying in his schemes and stuff, and be a good coach. And I think he will. I just can't say it for sure yet because, like I said, it's not guaranteed that all this stuff translates to the court. And I hope it does. And I hope they run an offense that is predicated on ball movement and running Dame a little bit more off ball. Not all the time, but sometimes. Using CJ's ability to get into the lane as a passer. Since he's not going to get into the free throw line, I think if he uses his ball handling ability to distribute, I think it would be much better for the team. I think Powell mentioned himself that he has the ability to make plays and stuff, and that wasn't really something that he's been able to show. You have Nurk, who could be like a 5-6 assist type guy in this league per game. You now have Nance and Zeller off the bench who are good passers. You have Simons, who was put in a situation to ISO and try to create his own shot a lot, where if he becomes more of a slasher / spot-up shooter, I think his already pretty good three-point shooting numbers will improve his efficiency overall. So... Yeah, I just think this team overall is gonna play a whole new style of basketball, and they're gonna be locked in defensively. This is something I've been saying for a long time, is that when you have bad personnel on defense, to me, it's not an excuse to say, oh yeah, they're just not good defensively. Like we can't trap because they're not good at trapping, whatever. Like, no, if you have bad personnel, you want to mix it up. You want to be aggressive. You want to be scrappy. And that's what Billups is saying. Like, he doesn't know if Dame and CJ can become lockdown defenders, but he said, I'll tell you this, they're gonna scrap. And that kind of stuff is so critical to just being an average defense. And that's what's so frustrating about the last couple of years. The Blazers, if they just tried some different things and weren't so freaking conservative and predictable on defense, like every team knew their defense. Every team knew how to exploit it. And the Blazers did nothing the entire 2 seasons to change that, to try and attack the ball handler, to try and get in passing lanes. They just, we have different personnel, it's going to automatically improve. And that doesn't work. You have to be locked in as a team, and you need to be aggressive in today's NBA. You need to fly out on shooters. You need to pressure pick and rolls. You need to do all these things, and I don't think it's that hard. It's not about personnel. You can have mediocre to bad personnel, and you can play a good team defense. Help defense is crucial, and we just let teams go, like, drive right into the lane on a pick and roll. Let's save the big and just let them get whatever shot they want, and if the big commits, then just lob it up to someone at the rim for a dunk. It's just, and then we give up offensive rebounds all the time because we're out of position. It's just, it's crazy to me that people always make the conversation about, oh, well, even the best coach ever couldn't have won a championship with this roster. Like, fine, if that's your argument, cool. But there's a huge difference between winning a championship and putting your team in the best position to win. And I feel like the last few years, we have not been in a position to win. So this is a situation where I think we're going to see a much different team, and I think it's going to revitalize Dame, like I said. I think we're going to just hit the ground running, and I don't really expect there to be many bumps because worst case scenario, we have fairly good continuity with a new bench, which I think doesn't take as long to mesh if you're talking about bench players. So the starting lineup should be locked in from day one. I just think we're going to hit the ground running and not look back, and we're going to have the type of season that, I mean, we may not be the first or second seed. It might be third or fourth, maybe in fifth or sixth. But, like, I feel like if I had to put money on it, I think we're going to be a team like Utah or Phoenix last year, where we just solidified ourselves as one of the top seeds in the West. And people are going to be surprised. I'm not, because I think the talent is there, and I don't think I'm worried about any other team outside of a healthy Lakers team. At least early on in the season, when we got guys like Kawhi hurt, Jamal Murray's going to be out for a while, Klay Thompson's going to be out for a while. So I think by the time all those guys come back and those teams are a little better, I think we're going to be in a position where it won't matter, because we're already hitting the ground running, and we'll be more established than those teams this season. And those teams are going to be like us the last few seasons, where they're fighting for playoff positioning instead of a top seed like we will be. And yeah, you can say I'm wrong right now. But yeah, Klay's supposed to be out till about Christmas. Jamal Murray, I think, is out until at least January, if not longer. Kawhi is expected to be out till like March or April at the earliest. So that's a lot of firepower that those teams are missing, and I know they did fine without those guys last year, but I just don't think those teams are better than us without those players. And I'll own it if I'm wrong. There's been things I've been wrong about. I've owned it. LaMelo Ball being one of the main ones. I didn't think he was going to be good. Completely wrong about that. Was right about most of the other players in that draft, but yeah, I just, I don't know. I have a good feeling about this team, and I think this trade today solidifies that. I think we're a better team this morning than we were yesterday, and we still have another signing to make. We can still make other moves. We can still pick up a free agent here or there throughout the season, or we have to do one now and one throughout the season, whether it be the buyout market or a lopsided trade or whatever. So I just think we're in a really good position. As of right now, we are $1.3 million into the luxury tax. Our minimum signing is about $1.7 million. So if we sign someone to the minimum, it'll be about $3 million into the tax, which I think is manageable. Yeah. So, really good situation for the Blazers, I think, right now. I don't think it's the doom and gloom that people are trying to make it out to be. I think we're fine, and I think we're gonna look back at the summer and be like, man, can you believe we were worried about that? And like I said, I'll gladly be wrong, but I trust Dame. I trust this roster more than most people, and yeah. The repeater tax does not matter for next year, Isaac. Yeah, I could still be wrong about Stotts. I mean, I don't know how that's possible because everything I said about him came to fruition and he did absolutely nothing. And I am absolutely disgusted by the way he just gave up on this team and didn't even try to fix any of the problems that they had. So if you think that I could be proven wrong eventually, that he was a good coach or whatever, I mean, at one point, yeah, he did a good job early on in his tenure here with the Blazers. But after they had some success, he absolutely mailed it in. And I don't think there's any question about that. Ernesto says someone is going to get snubbed on minutes between Ant, Little, McLemore, and Snell. Probably. So McLemore has been a guy who last few years hasn't really, I mean, he's played at times, but not really someone you have to play or has to be a part of a rotation. So I'm guessing initially he'll be the odd man out. Snell, I think, will be used like situationally. I don't know. One of those guys is out of the rotation, assuming CJ is still the backup point guard. But Taylor Packer says, what would the shock be if pick and roll and ISO ball truly is the best way for us to play? I don't think that's the case, but it's possible. Well, here's the deal. If that's the best way for us to play, this team is never going anywhere. So if that's the only thing those guys can be good at and they can't figure out how to play with ball movement and stuff like that, they're never going to win a title anyway. So I don't think it really matters if that's the case. Nothing will ever matter because that type of play, especially from guards who can be taken out in the playoffs, I don't think will ever work. So I think you need more than that. You have to be able to play different ways. And relying on those guys to hit tough shots, I just think that's crazy to think that that's like the only way they can play. Alex asks, does Stotts ever get another head coaching job? I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, teams hire coaches who have been much worse in situations. I think that I mean, I could see a scenario where the Kings get off to a bad start, fire Walton, and then hire Stotts, just like that kind of team. I'm kind of surprised he didn't get a look, but I think you're seeing that maybe a lot of teams around the league saw his absolute lack of coaching this year and realized that maybe this team wasn't performing to the best they could because of the coaching and not necessarily the roster. So maybe around the league it's viewed a little differently than how the media and most fans seem to portray it. Tony says he's usually fired up for football this time of year, which I'm fired up for football as well. But yeah, can't wait for basketball. Billups has me excited to see how this Blazers team can truly play. Yeah, I'm excited for both, but yeah, what, like 7 weeks or 7.5 weeks until Blazers' first game against the Kings. The other thing is about the schedule is we have a lot of home games early. We have matchups with teams like the Clippers, who will be missing Kawhi. I think that's also leading into me believing that we'll get off to a good spot. Yeah, you guys don't have to sub or like my video or whatever. I appreciate it, but yeah, I had to just figure stuff out today. But thanks. Yeah, I think it's the first time I've ever used this channel for personal use, other than just like watching stuff. So yeah. Yeah, Nance can play small ball center. Rocco can also play small ball center. So, yep. James says all the GMs be watching Blazers Uprising won't touch thoughts. But yeah, if you later, Chris, have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. If you guys don't know about Blazers Uprise, just go in the YouTube search bar and hit Blazers Uprise and subscribe to that channel. Tori and I do post-game shows after every game. We do twice weekly live shows on our second channel, Blazers Uprise Live. And then we have videos and other content on there as well. And yeah, this wasn't a split up. I just couldn't get a hold of Tori. He's tough in the mornings. It's hard to get a hold of him sometimes because of his sleep schedule. But he also, for a while, he said he was going to leave his phone on and have it so if I contacted him or something happens, I'd be easily able to get a hold of him. But unfortunately, I think he gave up on something happening. So yeah, he stays up pretty late at night. He's still a young gentleman. So yeah. Cooper is asking about who the ideal player for the 14th spot is. I still think we need some depth at the big, so like a third 4-5 type. So I'd be fine with bringing Giles back. I'd be fine with just taking another flyer on Scal, Isaiah Hartenstein. Just one of those kind of players, just a 4-5 type guy who can maybe step in if we need him to, but that doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money. Yeah, Boogie Cousins, fine. Just worry about him thinking he's better than like Zeller and Nance and Nurk and maybe causing some sort of rift there. But yeah, I don't think that's quite what I said, Alex. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's funny. But yeah, just that kind of guy. I also wouldn't mind an Avery Bradley or a Frank Ntilikina just to have a defensive specialist at the point guard position. But for either of these positions, I don't think we're really going to need that much depth. And like I said, Nas can move over to the 4 if we need him to. Greg Brown could maybe play some spot minutes at the 4. So yeah, I think we have some options. I'd also be fine with Rondé Hollis-Jefferson coming back as well. He can kind of play that 4-5 spot. Did okay with it during the regular season. Metrics in the playoffs didn't really look very good for him, but I think that was not really his fault. He just happened to play a few minutes in some bad lineups with not much of a chance of stopping Jokic. So I don't think it's crucial who we sign as long as it's someone who can provide depth at maybe multiple positions or be like a defensive stopper. Hassan Whiteside signed with the Utah Jazz. He is Rudy Gobert's backup. Johnny asked you, I think Chauncey will have the guts to yell at Dame and CJ for their lazy defense. I do actually. And I think that is the reason why Billups was hired over anyone else, why they took the risk of all the PR stuff to hire him, is because I feel like he is one of the few people who not only can yell at them or hold them accountable, but that they'll also listen to. And that's no offense to any of the other candidates, but there's several candidates who I don't know if they would have commanded that same respect. So Billups has a lot of cachet around the league. He is known for being tough. He's known for being defensive minded. He's known for stepping up in clutch moments. So I think if that guy's watching film with you and telling you this needs to be better, or in a game, you're just falling asleep. And that develops good habits too. It's not just about yelling at someone. It's about pointing out all the times and you not wanting to have him continually point out these things. So if you're a good player, naturally, the more times you get called out in game film or pointed out when you fall asleep or make a really stupid, lazy play on defense, the more that these guys will like just naturally get better at it because they don't want to get called out. And then eventually it becomes a habit to where you don't fall asleep on defense very often, or you don't play lazy ever. And I think that's the other problem with Stott's defense is it was so conservative that the players would just it's almost like it was their job to be lazy. Like, oh, here comes a pick. Let me just stand here and switch automatically without trying to fight through it. Oh, someone's coming down the lane. Let me just back up and let him shoot a runner or something. Like those kind of defensive, like when that's what you're being told to do by your coach, it leads to laziness. It leads to players it looks like they're not giving effort even though they're in the spots they're supposed to be in. It puts them in such bad positions, and it's impossible to play perfect defense in the NBA anyway. So if you're putting your players in a bad position and they're having to stop some of the best scorers in the NBA, I mean, they have no chance to be a good defensive team. So I think that'll be one of Billups' biggest hurdles, is just overcoming some of these bad habits that a player like Dame and CJ for 8 and 9 years respectively have now been under Stott's, learning how to play the wrong way. And I think the quicker he can get them on board and to recognize that them being lazy or just not being involved in a play, or just like, oh, I'm on the weak side, I don't really have to help in this situation, or helping too much in some situations. I think the quicker Billups can realize or get those guys to realize that's hurting their overall defense, I think those guys are smart enough to play better, and I think it'll happen relatively quickly. Ben asked, will you leave this stream on as a video on your channel? I haven't really thought of it. I was hoping there was a way to move it over to like the Blazers Uprise page at some point. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. How many years do we have of high level Dame? Probably 2 or 3. I'd say 3 years, probably. Yeah, John Doe says, I don't even think Kidd would have. And I agree. I mean, everything I've read about Kidd and the way he handled Milwaukee, he was like, there's a difference between like yelling or being strict and just being like a complete jerk and like ruining people's like esteem and confidence and stuff like that. And that's when I watched just a little clip of Billups coaching, like in a practice. It's the beauty of people who can do it in a way, be strict, be firm, without necessarily like coming across as you attacking that person. And Billups was just like, everything he said was so like masterful about like saying it in a way that teaches and says, I expect it to be this way, but also giving that player time or having patience with him to know that you can't just tell a player, do it this way, and it automatically happens right away. You need time for them to develop. And especially with like the young players like Greg Brown, I feel like once he takes you under his wing, he's going to be great with those kind of guys. So it's another reason why I don't have any kind of doubt that that he was the right hire in terms of on the court and basketball decision wise. And this is, people make fun of it like a lot, but in the press conference, Olshey specifically said that Billups has an upside that he brings to this team that none of the other candidates did, and I completely agree with that. If we would have hired like a Mike D'Antoni, yeah, the team could have gotten a little better maybe, or maybe the offensive system improves a little bit, and I mean, who knows about defense under him, but maybe you get a good defensive assistant that locks him in or whatever. But that's just like incremental improvements. But if you have a guy who comes in like a Monty Williams for Phoenix and completely changes everyone's mindset and does so in like such a positive and respectful way, while also being like a tough-minded, hard-nosed coach, I just think those kind of coaches, once again, I'm not saying this is for sure going to happen, but if it was going to happen with this team, I think that a coach like Billups is the right move if you're going to run the roster back, if you're going to have the same starting five. Like, at least give a coach that has the potential to mold those guys into the best possible unit they could be. Taylor asks, realistically, how long are you giving Billups until you start to form a real opinion of him? Actually, probably start to form an opinion pretty soon after the season. Like I said, we have a good returning starting lineup. So I feel like we shouldn't really have a lot of hiccups like a new team would have at the beginning of the season. It's going to take a while, like I said, to develop some of those habits in a more positive way. But John asks any rookie coaching bumps, which kind of is kind of the same question. So Jackson, we're not on the channel. So yeah. But for me, the way I watch games, like it's never been about results. It's never been about whether they win or lose, or, oh my gosh, we had this record without CJ and Nurk. What a great coaching performance, you know. We could have terrible coaching performance, but good player performances, and we could have terrible player performances and good coaching performances. So I look at just the way the offense is being run, whether, for example, if Dame's going off, right, he's having a good game, and the other team starts doubling Dame off every pick and roll. So pretty much right away, I want to see, does Billups try something else? Like, does he run Dame off ball? Does he have CJ bring it up and run some sort of other play? Does he occasionally have Norm run the offense and or Nurk from the high post and have Dame and CJ in the corner spotting up for three. All kinds of stuff that should be pretty obvious, like right off the bat. And same with like on defense, if we're playing a certain coverage against pick and roll and De'Aaron Fox is going off on us in game one, I expect them at halftime to maybe try something different. So this is stuff I look for in games, and that's why I've been driven absolutely crazy the last few years when Dame gets double teamed. Oh, let's just run the same offense and let him double team him and take him out of the game. Or, oh, so-and-so has 30 points so far. Oh, let's just keep running the same defense and not do anything to change it. Yeah. So I'll be looking at those kind of things from game one, and Tori and I will be on here breaking all that stuff down. So that's the thing that people don't realize is that Tony says, are you trying to say we make defensive adjustments? Yes, that's something I will be looking for. And I honestly, as much as I want to like Billups, if he doesn't do these things, I'm gonna have a huge problem with them, and I'll be right back to bashing the coaching if he is the same as Stotts and doesn't make adjustments. So, yep. Danny is sad that Derrick Jones got traded for a journeyman player. Well, I mean, that makes it sound like Derrick Jones was like a good player or something. I mean, he has potential still, but Nance is a much better player than a journeyman player. He is really good defender. He can shoot the ball as big. He can pass the ball. I don't see really many. In terms of his fit on the Blazers, I still think you can't get much better than Nance right now. I don't know anything about his mentoring. Carson asks if he'd be a good mentor to Greg Brown. I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, Nance has played for what, 2 teams? Two? 3 teams? Oh. We'll have Greg Brown as a dunk champion too, so we'll go back to having 2 here soon. What's up, Joel? Overall grade on the trade, I think it's I give it probably a D plus C minus for the Cavs. Have no idea what they're doing. For the Bulls, I give it a B. Would probably be higher, getting a first round pick, a second round pick, and Derrick Jones for Markkanen, but the fact that they used the 7th pick on him probably has to be that. Probably can't be higher in my mind. And then for the Blazers, I give it a B plus. For Derrick Jones and a first, I don't think there was a better fit out there than Nance. So I really like this trade a lot for the Blazers. Do you think we should pick up Brooks? I'm assuming you mean Dylan Brooks. I don't think he's available. And I don't think... I mean, if we traded CJ and needed another guard, but we still have Ant and Norm... I guess Brooks can play the 3 a little bit, but then you're talking about someone being undersized again. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, apparently he's available or something. I don't know. I don't know what Memphis is doing this summer either, so it's weird. I don't know. I don't buy that he's available necessarily. Johnny Doe said he remembers that I mentioned that I didn't like some of the stuff Billups said as an analyst. What did he say? It wasn't coaching wise, it was more personnel based. This was back when he was rumored to be in the running for like a GM position. And I don't know, there was just like some very bad / mediocre players that he thought were a lot better than they were. But like I said, that was as a GM, and that was a long time ago. So yeah, I think I'm stoked. I was the process of when Billups was first mentioned as a coaching candidate, and then all this, like all the allegations and stuff, that all sucked. I would have understood if they went away from him, but once again, from a basketball perspective, everything he said is everything I've wanted from this team. So until he proves me otherwise, I am going to believe that he. I'm going to believe that he's the right man for the job. Yeah, he didn't like Ben Simmons, but I'm not that high on Ben Simmons too, so that would have been something in his favor, in my opinion. John Doe asks how the website's coming along, what kind of stuff to expect. So for those that don't know about that, on September 6th, we are officially launching the website. It's been up for about a year now, or about 10 months or so. We've been hesitant to really promote it or do anything with it until we had more of a stability there and a way to provide regular content. And Tori has hired me to be in charge of that. So obviously I hope it goes well. As of right now, I have like 8 to 10 people who have expressed interest in writing. And so far, everything I've gotten back has been really good. And honestly, like 5 or 6 of the topics are things that I'm looking forward to seeing what these guys write about and how the articles turn out. So I'm really excited to show you guys here soon. And yeah, so I think we're going to have a lot of content, and I think it's going to be stuff that's it might seem a little pro Olshey, not intentionally. So for the record, like, I'm not telling anyone to what to write or how like I wouldn't force anyone to be like, no, you can't say good or bad things about this person or whatever. So like if someone has the assignment of writing for example how the players we brought in's defense compares to the players we lost or whatnot, I'm letting that person form his opinion and give me based on how he researches it. So I'm not telling him write this article in a positive way that shows that the Blazers defense is better. Yeah. yeah, I'm more concerned about the style and the topics and things like that. So initially we should have a really good initial set of articles, and then we'll follow it up with articles periodically throughout the next month and a half until the season starts. Obviously, once we get into training camp and beyond, once the season starts, it'll be a lot easier to have content and things. So I was a little worried at first about trying to come up with enough ideas to have enough stuff on the page and stuff. And I was really pleased with how many people contacted me and how many good topics they came up with to write about. And I wanted them to write about stuff they actually wanted to write about, so it came across as passionate and stuff like that. So I think it'll be really good, and I think I'm pretty excited about it. And just like a week and a half away from that happening. People are asking how Tori and I met. So we actually we were both on a Blazer forum. This was probably like 4 or 5 years ago now, and I really want. What are you talking about, Reese? Okay. Yeah, so we were on a forum together, and shortly after, for the longest time, I'm old, so the Oregon Live used to have a Blazer forum, and I started, talking to people on there. This was probably like late 90s, early 2000s. And so I was on there for the longest time. When Blazers Edge came around, I kind of commented on there for a while, but it wasn't the same. Like Oregon Live was really cool for a while. And then all of a sudden it just went downhill fast, and then Oregon Live turned off comments and ended all their forums and stuff. And at the time, someone who had been in that forum was the head of a different forum now, and he invited everyone who was still on the Oregon Live forum, to their forum. And so I started posting on there and became I wouldn't say friends, but chatted a lot with people on there. And then it came out that they had a 3-on-3 basketball team in the media bracket for the Rip City 3-on-3 tournament at the Moda Center. And so Tori was on it the year before, and he had played with there were some other players on the team that were fine, but they weren't to the level Tori was hoping. So he was kind of asking people if they played basketball or stuff. And so I happened to mention that I played basketball and I was 6'6" and all that stuff. And Tori was like, you have to come play on our 3-on-3 team or whatever. And so then between that and just talking on the forum, and before we played, we actually all met up several times and practiced at different playgrounds around Portland, and became friends through that. And then he actually started doing some commentary on a different channel called True Blazer Fan. And then Blazers Uprise, he ended up leaving that and starting this channel. And he asked me to come on and help him with that, which I did. And at first, I wasn't supposed to be on every post game or every show or whatever. But then it just morphed into both of us being co-hosts instead of just him. So, yeah, just kind of evolved after several years of both just talking on a forum and playing basketball together and stuff like that. And it's been really disappointing because the last 2 summers, the Rip City 3-on-3 has been canceled due to COVID, so haven't been able to play basketball much with him since I think the last time I played was the 2019 Rip City 3-on-3, which we won the championship in our bracket. But yeah, humble brag, I guess. It was love at first sight. Yeah, funny. Gotta get my channel more than Danny Meringues. That'd be awesome. When I don't even post on here. Tony's asking for trustworthy Blazers pages that he can follow. Aside from us, why do you need more than us? No, just kidding. You're free to watch whatever. Mike says, I just started watching. I'm 100 minutes behind, but let's go. We got Nance Daddy. Jared says, weird flex, but okay. Yes, Anthony, this was a great pickup. Nance is going to solidify our second unit, and yeah. Torrey is by far the better basketball player now. Back in the day, would have been very close, but I'm way past my prime and overweight. So hopefully someday I'll get back and lose some weight. I've been trying. Been playing basketball twice a week right now. It's not as much as I want to, but between Blazers Uprise and running a business and family, it's not a lot of time to exercise. So got to try to manufacture some time to do that. So 50-win season, is a 50-win season possible, or how many regular season wins? Asked Colin and Alex. So I think 50 wins is very possible. I actually, after this trade, I would pretty much bet on 50 wins. So yeah, I'm pretty confident with 50. Yep. Alex, I do lift weights, but it's hard to get rid of a gut with just lifting. So I use basketball. I've used it my whole life as my way of running or getting exercise. So yeah, we have 42 last year with 10 less games. So and the second worst defense. So I think it's certainly possible. And like I said, I feel like we'll get off to a good start, and that'll give us confidence. It's something that hasn't happened since Aldridge left, is the Blazers getting off to a good start, and then also not needing to have a miracle run towards the end of the season, winning like 10 out of 12 games or whatever to just to make the playoffs or not playing the play-in or whatever. I think we're going to be fighting for home court advantage versus that. Sledman, what's up? I'm happy about the trade as well. Ahmed asked how much I weigh. Well, what a weird question, man. Later, Jackson. Have a good one. No, I weigh about 280, so I'm like 6'6", 280 right now. For those that don't know, right after the 3-on-3 tournament in 2019, I had Achilles surgery. Had just gotten cleared to play or start running again right before COVID happened, and then didn't play for a year plus. So until the last couple months, it was a year and a half, almost 2 years of not being able to run or do much. So yeah, I got was lucky enough to get involved with some runs happening at a closed down gym on Saturday mornings, and then just recently started playing in a rec league again. So yep. Yeah, I would love to lose about like 30 pounds or so. It would help my knees and feet a lot to be able to run a little more without those things hurting as much. But yeah, I'm an old man now, so it's really hard to lose weight and find time. What's up, Tom? How you doing? Well, so for like 5 or 6 years, I needed to have a surgery. Um, it wasn't uh, like if I wasn't playing basketball or whatever, I probably wouldn't have done the surgery. But like if I was ever going to be able to run properly again, I had to have it. So yeah, I had to. It's kind of like the Kawhi surgery where it wasn't a torn Achilles, but the surgery for it was basically like recovering from a torn Achilles. Um, so Kawhi's dealing with ACL surgery, but he had to. Uh, the recovery time is similar to an ACL tear, so it's like the same thing. But yeah, so uh, he or I've only known Tori in the times where I've either been hampered by that injury or not been able to move and stuff like that. So uh, I'm hoping to get to a point where he can see flashes of how I used to play, whatever. But yeah. Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. I don't care. I'm not really trying to impress anyone. I do want to lose weight just to feel better though. And I usually, I mean, I'm long past the days where I can just go play for like 4 hours a day. But it's kind of weird because I used to be super skinny because that's all I do every day is play basketball. Excuse me. I did not play in college. I could have played pretty much any smaller school in Oregon or Washington, but I decided to go to Oregon State. Just um, focus on, my real life career. Yeah. Call your number? What? But yeah, I'd love to get to a point where I can move again. Still trying to, between the weight and not really rehabbing the way I should have for my surgery and stuff, or all those like rehab places were closed during it. So yeah. Yeah, Tom, I definitely won some intramural championships at OSU. That's for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I'd always hoped to try out for the Beavs. Never really worked out, but had some good times there. Actually, this is kind of weird, but like I never played football because my parents didn't let me. But I was actually better at intramural football than basketball, which is crazy. So won several championships in intramural football. I don't have a lot of highlights because back in the day, there wasn't like smartphones or cell phones weren't a thing until I was older. So yeah. Yeah, I'm even before K-Love time, so that was much after me. Johnny's parents won't let him play football either. Yeah, I know. It's like if I had my body type now, I could have been like a lineman. But Tom wants a recap. Big thumbs up for the trade. I think Derrick Jones and a first for Larry Nance was about as good as we could get. No, I do not live on 82nd, Ahmed. But yeah, they had to change the rules for flag football because I would just rush the quarterback and go for the ball, and so they made it so you couldn't go for the ball. So it's stupid. But like I used to cause like fumbles and just deflect passes all the time. My favorite NFL team is the 49ers. I grew up in the 80s with Montana and Rice, and yeah, I stick with my teams no matter what, with the possible exception of if Portland happened to get a team, like a Major League Baseball team, I would think about switching my allegiances or maybe just naturally start rooting for them. But yeah. Yep, getting those strip sacks in flag football. Yeah. I know, bar 49ers, right? It's all good, Tony. Who do you like? The Seahawks? I'm taking it. Yeah, I would have loved to play football. But yeah, it's I kind of understand my parents' point because especially at a young age, it just goes by like weight, what position you can be, and I was super skinny, but I was tall, so I weighed a lot. So it was like I would have had to play the line, but I would have gotten destroyed by people at a young age. So yeah, yep, good move. Really good move for the Blazers. Larry Nance is the perfect fit, I think, with our second unit, and he brings a lot of defensive abilities that I think will be good when he plays with the starters as well. Congratulations, Taylor. Cool. Yeah, Portland's never going to get an NFL team, but that'd be cool as well. I'm pretty happy with Trey Lance. I don't know if he'll be good anytime in the next year or two, but no, he's not going to replace Rocco at power forward. I think he'll come off the bench. But yeah. All right. Well, really appreciate everyone tuning in, and so our future pick situation. So this is protected. So much like the Rocco pick, if it doesn't convey, it keeps moving to the next year. So as of right now, we can't trade any future firsts now. We could, like we talked about all last year, we could offer Cleveland, or no, I guess it'd be Chicago, the ability to make that less protected or something, or change the protections on it. What's up, Bernardo? So yeah, we could change that in the future, maybe. But so the thinking is we make the playoffs next year, that pick conveys, and then we get all our future picks back again. So yeah. Yep. I think I think it's fine. I I think that's better than it lowering protections. So it's lottery protected. So if something happens with Dame, we're going to be happy that we protected it, and that it doesn't become like an unprotected or a top 5 protected or whatever. So yeah, if Dame leaves or gets hurt or something, then we keep our pick in the future. If not, yeah, I like the way it's worded, even though I don't like tying up all the future firsts. It's really only one first, even though it ties up all our future ones. But like I said, there's not a lot of other trades we can make, and if we were going to make a big trade, I think we could take like I said, the protections off of that one to make it more appealing to the Bulls, and they have no reason to not do that, so I think it'll be fine. But yeah, so the Blazers acquire Larry Nance Jr., give up Derrick Jones and a first-round protected pick. I just think Nance is the perfect backup 4, and I think he's going to carve out a nice role for himself here. I think this gives us a lot of options depth-wise and position flexibility. So I really like the trade, and I'm glad to see Portland make a move. This isn't like a major move to shake things up a lot, but I think, like I said, we're a lot better today than we were yesterday. And once again, thank you everyone for finding this stream. Sorry it couldn't be on the main channel. I don't know. When Tori wakes up, he'll probably have his own stream or do something different. So yeah, I don't know what'll happen there. Maybe I'll be back with him later today. But yeah, as of right now, just wanted to get something out there. So I appreciate all of you for tuning in. It's been fun just chatting with everyone. And thank you again to Krish for creating the thumbnail. And thank you to Reese for alerting me right away about the trade. Appreciate you guys. And hope everyone has a good rest of your day. I might see you in a little bit. And thank you for all the questions and for being active in chat. That's been fun to talk with you all. And as Tori always says, have a nice day. Peace out. Go Blazers.